Good afternoon, and thanks so much for tuning in to the Market Wrap on BloombergQuint. I'm Alex Mathew. What a run we've seen for the Indian equity markets. We've started the new year on a bright note, and in fact, for the first full week of 2021, we've ended with gains of over 2% for the Nifty. It's interesting, the cues were very strong going into trade today. In the US, there was a sentimental boost on Wall Street with Joe Biden taking the presidency, and also on account of the outcome of the runoff elections in a couple of states there that could in fact give Democrats a slender control of Congress going into the new term. And that led most of the markets in the Asia Pacific region to do quite well in trade and the last day of the week. Our markets built on the gains that they've had through the day, in fact, and ended close to the high point of the day. So 40 gainers or so for the Nifty and 10 losers. Let's look at some of those key contributors. On the top of the screen, you'll see Maruti Suzuki India gaining nearly 6%. And this is despite the management saying that the demand recovery in the Indian auto industry is looking perhaps a little sketchy. You'll see quite a few of number of technology companies, IT companies in the list there. Earnings going to be in focus, and I believe my colleague Nicky is going to tell you a little bit more about that. On the losing side, let's talk about some of those numbers there. You'll see a couple of the metal counters. You see Hindalco as the top loser, losing about 2%, and Tata Steel about 1.3%. But remember, these are two counters that have done very well over the course of the last week or so. In fact, despite the fall today, they're ending with gains for the week of as much as, apologies for that, there's construction work going on outside, but the two counters that I was talking about, Hindalco and Tata Steel, ending the week with gains of about 12% despite the fall that they saw today. A couple of other losers to mention, but really the losses were not very substantial, so I won't go into too much detail. I'm joined, as I mentioned, by Nickey Mirchandani, who's going to talk to you about the IT services sector. Good afternoon, Nicky, and thanks obviously for joining in. What do you have for us?
Okay, you know what, Alex? I'm going to be starting off with IT Pack because that's one area which is going to be in focus starting today. Of course, it's been a good run for the last 4 to 5 sessions and the anticipation of good numbers coming in. But today, all eyes will be on TCS and the numbers that will come in from, TCS. But in reaction to, you've seen a lot of large cap counters doing extremely well in trade, be it in the likes of Tech Mahindra, be it in the likes of Wipro, all of them doing well and ending the day with gains of more than 5.5% as compared to nearly 3.6% gain seen by the entire index as a whole. HSBC sometime came up with a report and suggested that the Q3 is expected to be a strong quarter coming in for the IT pack. You can expect the margins and the deal momentum to continue to remain strong. And it's the cloud adoption which will drive the double-digit growth for the Indian IT pack. At this point of time, the sector seems to be trading at a bit of expensive valuation as compared to that of Nifty, but it's just a 7.5% premium as compared to Nifty 50 index as a whole. But this is despite the fact that the entire pack has outperformed Nifty 50 in a big way, and hence by virtue of that is also commanding some amount of premium valuation. HSBC says that it prefers Infosys and HCL at this point of time, and in the mid-cap space they're going to be watching out, or they have a preference towards L&T Infotech and Infosys. But overall, what are you picking up from the broader space, Alex? Any trends that seem to be interesting at this point of time?
Nicky, absolutely. And it goes without saying that you'll find all the updates on the earnings front on the website, BloombergQuint.com. But there you have it on your screen. This is the broader market. So I would say that the market breadth was very firmly in favor of the gainers today, but perhaps not as much as you've seen in certain other sectors from what, or rather certain other sessions. What I saw in the NSE was 1,057 odd gainers, and you had 843 stocks declining. But if I were to talk about the sectors that did well in trade today, you have the auto as a pack that did well, led by gains in Maruti Suzuki. We've already spoken about IT, but Nifty Media also was an interesting pack that did quite well in trade, gaining for the 8th straight session, and Z Entertainment in that was one of the top performers. It's trading, in fact, at 10-month high. Volumes were 3 times the 20-day average, and the stock has, in fact, crossed the 12-month consensus Bloomberg target of 213 trade today. Let's also talk about some of the other stocks there. You have, in fact, as a pack, the mid cap and small cap indices gained, but they lagged the benchmarks today. A couple of names stood out for me. Bandhan Bank was, in fact, the top gainer on the Nifty Bank after BofA initiated coverage. You also had Phoenix Mills that is the highest, in fact, since March. It reported a sustained demand recovery across all of its businesses. In fact, it said malls, commercial, residential and hospitality properties are seeing a demand uptick. And it did give up some of the gains towards the end of the session, but ended quite strong. Biocon also, I think, stood out for me. Abu Dhabi's ADQ has agreed to pick up a minority stake in its subsidiary. But those are the few names that I've picked up. Nikki, you have a few more names that you would like to talk about. What are they?
Yeah, Bharat Rasayan, because that's one counter which is gaining a lot of traction. In today's session of trade, also, you had 8.5%, 9% kind of uptick coming in for this counter after the company announced that the board is going to be meeting up soon, on a Jan 12 to consider the proposal of buyback. At this point of time, most interesting to be seen what's the kind of 25% is maximum, that you can go up to the buyback of your total cash bank balance. With that, we are also going to be talking about SOBA, because that's rallied for second consecutive session after reporting the Q3 operational updates, because the numbers were rather good. Q3, we saw gross sales which was up by as much 6% in volume terms and 22% in value terms. There was a strong momentum sequentially coming in for Bengaluru, as well as the momentum in Kochi markets also aided the company to cross pre-COVID sales booking in spite of minimal launches. So that's one bit of on account of which you're seeing that momentum building in for the counter. But otherwise, there'll be a bunch of results that we'll be keeping an eye out on. Alex, it's going to be an IT companies are going to kickstart the earnings on 8 Jan today. You have TCS 9 Jan tomorrow. You have DMart 10 Jan, BEPL. This is for the week. But if you're looking for the next week, then 12 Jan is when three of these companies like Indian Bank, Karnataka Bank, Tata Elxsi, all of these are in the broader space. And in 13 Jan, on a 13 Jan is where all the action will lie. Infosys, Wipro, CESC, GTPL, all of them will be reporting in numbers. But then at this point of time, let's talk about global markets as a whole, because that's where the action lies. Yesterday, we saw the Wall Street actually scaling in records high. And today, also stock futures have been trading higher. In fact, the European markets also have been doing rather well in trade. Optimism seems to be pretty much palpable at this point of time for globe. But with this, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.